Hello fellow mathematicians and welcome to our recording for Section 7-1, Unit 7, Chapter 7 of Mathematics 2200, Absolute Value. We're going to be defining absolute value and doing calculations involving absolute value. What is absolute value? Well, for a real number, we'll call it A, the absolute value is simply its distance from 0 on the number line. So for example, -3 is 3 units away from 0, and +3 is 3 units from 0. So the absolute value, when we want to talk about the distance of a number from 0 on the number line, we put these little vertical bars around that number. And that tells us we're talking about absolute value. And that value always works out to be a positive number, except in one case. Absolute value of 0 is equal to 0. And as we all know, 0 is neither positive nor negative. Now, find all numbers with an absolute value of 5. Well, that means we want to find the distance, all numbers with a distance of 5 units from 0. So we have two of them. We have -5 is 5 units from 0, and +5 is 5 units from 0. So the answer there, or the answers are -5 and 5. If we take their absolute values, absolute value of -5 is +5, and the absolute value of +5 is +5. Some special notes here. The absolute value of a positive number is the positive number. So in other words, the absolute value of a positive number is that number itself. The absolute value of 0 is 0 because it's no units away from 0 on the number line. The absolute value of a negative number is the negative of that number, resulting in the positive value of that number. So for example, absolute value of -5 is equal to, we know it's equal to +5, but that's the negative of the -5 that was inside here. So one more example on that. The absolute value of -2, for example. We could right away say it's just equal to 2, that's fine, but for later work, it's nice to see it this way as well. It's equal to the negative of the -2, which gives us +2. Now we look at the steps for calculations involving absolute value. They're outlined here. Perform operations inside the absolute value symbols first, similar to operations in the brackets first. Find the absolute value of each result from step 1 and change the absolute value symbols to parentheses, and then follow the normal order of operations. So following those steps, let's take a look at this first calculation. Absolute value of 4, subtract absolute value of -6. Take your absolute value symbols in pairs. So this pair encloses this number. This pair encloses this number. The subtraction is not inside any absolute value signs. Now, there are no operations to perform inside any of those absolute value signs, so we just take the absolute value. So the absolute value of 4 is 4. We'll change the absolute value symbols to brackets. And then the absolute value of -6 is +6. And again, we change the absolute value symbols to brackets. 4 minus +6 is the same as 4 subtract 6, which is -2. So even though we have an expression involving absolute value, the result of the calculation can be negative. That's a possibility. For our next one, we've got 5 minus 3 times the absolute value of 2 minus 7. Do the operations in here first. So we have 5 minus 3, absolute value, 2 minus 7 is -5. Now we take the absolute value of any numbers that are enclosed by absolute value symbols. So that turns out to be +5, 3 times +5, and we change this to brackets. 3 times +5, well, it's actually -3 times +5, gives us -15. The answer is -10. for our last example, we have absolute value of negative 2 outside of 5 minus 7 squared plus 6. We have to do all these calculations inside here first. So the first thing we do is we take care of that 5 minus 7 because that's in brackets. That gives us negative 2. Next, we have to take care of the exponent. So we have negative 2 times positive 4, because negative 2 squared is positive 4, plus this 6. Then we multiply the negative 2 by the 4. Whatever you do, don't turn that positive on its own. Okay? It has to be part of the operations in here first. So we've got negative 8 for negative 2 times 4 plus 6. And then we've got negative 2 here for negative 8. In conclusion, the absolute value of a number is its distance from 0 on the number line, regardless of direction. It is written as absolute value is indicated by the 2 vertical bars around the number. It's a positive number, of course, except when a equals 0, i.e. absolute value of 0 equals 0, which is neither positive nor negative. For calculations involving absolute value, perform operations inside the symbols first, then find the absolute value of the results within those symbols after you do the calculations in step 1, and then follow the normal order of operations.